Evening, guys. Welcome to Musicians Forum podcast. This is episode 8. We've got a guest tonight from London, Kentucky. A lot of you will recognize him. He's a phenomenal guitar player. He's also a great piano player. Not really. A singer. He's been in bands for the last several, decades. You've seen him around downtown. Awesome guy to be around, hilarious to be around. And also, guest hosting tonight is Dave Grigsby, which we could not keep him away. But welcome our guest, Chuck Stuber. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good. It's been a while since we actually sat down and
Yes, it is. It's way too long.
we text and message online and stuff, but that's about it. So, I guess since the epidemic or whatever, pandemic or whatever this been, we've not really. We used to jam a lot. We'd get together and jam.
Yep.
But we're about to dawn on 2023 gigging season. And your band, My Finest Hour, so you guys booking now? Or?
Yeah, we're in the middle of booking now. We've got a lot of tentative things going on, but the only thing confirmed really is all the way into September, and that is the Jackson County Fair. And we played it a couple times. But it's a lot of these fairs will only let you play twice in a row. Mm-hmm. Then they want to take a year off, and they're bringing somebody else in. But the day after they had the last Jackson County Fair, literally the day after, they called and said, "All right, we're booking you for next year." So that was nice.
You're the Chuck rule. They can't. They got to have all those.
So
that's something though. I mean, because if once you play, a lot of times they want variety. But if you guys are playing, I guess your set list is a variety of music.
It is.
Kind of meets the needs of that, right?
It is. It really does, and they enjoy it and have a good time, and the crowds are excellent over there. So,
So when is it this year?
Friday, September 1st, I think. They usually do it Labor Day weekend.
Okay, well, good deal. And you got working on anything else locally? We'll be able to.
We're working on. I can't really say anything yet. We're working on a lot of stuff. I know we won't be back at Town Center this year because they have a 2-year unwritten rule that you have a band twice in a row, and we've been there 2 years in a row.
I was going to say, weren't they going to name it after you?
Daniel Carmack made that.
The My Finest Hour Arena.
Well, Daniel Carmack made a comment the first year they had the shows, because I played there with Yesterday's Wine, and it was My Finest Hour, and the second show I was playing, it was like a couple months later, he was like, "Are you playing like every month?" And I was like, no, this is my last one. Unless somebody else calls and needs a guitar player.
Artist in residency. Yeah. Vegas.
Yeah, I did the London downtown residency.
But isn't that the highest form of praise, though? It's just like immediately get a call back. We want you back.
Yeah, it feels really good for somebody to say that, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, and that fair brings a lot of folks downtown.
Yeah, it really does, and it's a lot of fun. Great people. Mm-hmm. They're there to have a good time, and it's something where they're there to be entertained.
Yeah,
and they enjoy it. They'll sing along. They'll dance, and it's fun.
Okay, so when you're talking about sing along and dance, so you guys are playing quite a bit of covers. I mean,
yes.
So what do you guys play?
We're doing everything from classic rock to some R&B, some dance. We even take songs like the Dead or Alive song, "You Spin Me Right Round."
Oh yeah,
and we do a rocked up version of that.
Okay.
We do Saturday Night from the Bay City Rollers.
Oh man, you don't hear people covering that.
Exactly. The first time we played it in a bar. Everybody started turning around, even the ones that weren't paying attention. When I got done, I said, "But you haven't heard that covered in a while, have you?" But we'll play a lot of classic rock, Bad Company, Foreigner, Eddie Money, and a lot of pop and some R&B too.
Yeah, so tell us who's in your band.
Juddy Weaver plays drums.
Yeah.
We tried to get him to sing back up, and he's like Dave. He's not going to do it. It's not going to happen.
Doing everybody a favor.
Yeah, that's what he says. I've heard him sing, and I agree. Brandon Stokes plays guitar.
Oh, yeah.
Roger Dale House is the lead singer. Mm-hmm. I play guitars and keys, very little keys, mostly all guitar. I try to limit the keys. My wife keeps saying, "You're not a keyboard player. Stick to the guitar." And then,
I have to say this though. In your defense, so we used to jam a lot, the three of us with another guy, super guy, actually two other guys, Nathan and Dusty, and we would pick out some songs and we would go and rehearse the songs, and then we'd be like, "Man, I really hear a keyboard in there," and you just see Chuck roll his eyes.
At that point, we started looking for songs with keys.
Yeah,
Did so well with that. Let's find another one.
Let's do some Elton John classics.
we did, and you actually had a couple where I had to switch from piano to horns.
Yeah.
What was it? I don't remember which one it was. It was "Get By with a Little Help from My Friends."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I had to switch. Yeah, and I think that was it.
Yeah, and sing and play and do the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so back to band. So
And then Tyler Finley
Yeah.
is the bass player, and here's the funny part. A lot of some people may not know. You two guys were in the first phase of My Finest Hour that never played out.
Yeah. We're the greatest band you never heard.
Yeah. And there's video
Never
clips,
played and never played since.
but there are video clips that you took at rehearsal.
Yeah.
Some original and some covers.
Well, you know what we could do? We could put those in this podcast. A few clips.
Yeah.
I mean,
You've got "Use Me" from Bill Withers, and then a couple of originals that we were working on, and
I tell you, Dusty Adams.
incredible singer.
I mean, man, and the biggest teddy bear you ever met.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy is super guy, and he's got a band now, and he's playing
Beyond the Ashes.
He's playing in some of the city. So if you guys are in the Whitesburg area,
Yep.
man, he's just good.
Yeah.
Super guy.
Well, you found him when we initially brought him in.
Well, I mean, we could.
You did.
Well, I mean, but Chuck was the one that got a hold of him because I couldn't.
Because you were a judge.
I was a judge in a contest.
And you just said, dude.
So, can't say anything but Chuck.
I think your words were, "I found the guy."
Yeah. Because we went through several, and a lot of them were really good singers and great guys. It just didn't fit what we were doing.
And you try to match your voice to the style that you play.
Yeah.
And, yours is a very classic rock,
Right.
driving lead guitar that you have, and you got to have a voice that matches that same intensity.
And he has that.
Yeah.
I've never played anybody a clip of Dusty Adams that their jaw didn't drop.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, and that's a lot of people. I've showed his stuff to a lot of people.
Every rehearsal, I was like, hit the record and I know you did too. We were like, wait, let's hit the record button because you don't know what kind of magic this guy's.
I've got a ton of audio clips on the little Tascam handheld still on my computer at home.
Okay. So, this guy, when he makes it big.
Shout out
That's
to
right.
Dusty Adams.
Yeah.
I got you, man.
And Beyond the Ashes.
But so your band, and your lead singer,
Roger Dale House. And
so talk about Roger.
Roger sang in a band with us in the 80s. So we had known Roger for years. And when I moved back to London and then eventually started playing again, I reached out to Roger to record some vocals on demos that I had because I don't sing well. You guys know. So it's one of those things that my voice has this range. This is it.
You never saw a microphone in front of us. So go for it, man.
So I said, I need you to come over and do this. Yeah. And it was in the middle of us doing the My Finest Hour stuff. And then basically, right after that, and then we were, as the band started coming together with different members, Roger, we were gonna audition singers. We had a couple in, and Roger was sitting in with us. And finally, Mike Birch was the drummer at the time. Was like, dude, Roger knows the songs. He's doing a great job. He's getting better again every week, getting his voice warmed back up. Just do it. Let's just have Roger in here. Cool. It worked out real well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you guys working on new material. So you were writing stuff too.
Yeah,
you write.
Yeah, I write. We haven't. And Brandon writes some. We haven't been doing any original material. Okay. We had played some at the Jackson County Fair a few years ago, and it went over like gangbusters. It really did. Mm-hmm. We just haven't done it. We go in and somebody throws out a song, and we start playing it.
So you have music ADD.
Yeah. Squirrel. Somebody throws a bad. Oh, what about this Bad Company song? Or what about this Elvis tune? I mean, it literally turns into that. Yeah. And great guys.
This is a tough subject to bring up, but I know you lost one of your best friends.
Yes.
In John, and I know you guys have written a ton of stuff.
We did.
Maybe up until when he passed. I mean,
yes.
You're still writing.
With Yesterday's Wine, John was my oldest musical friend. Mm-hmm. We met in the 8th grade, and it's one of those stories where we met in 8th grade, and he comes over to spend the night at the house, and he walks in my room. He says, "Hey, you have an electric guitar? I play guitar too. Let's start a band." Yeah. What he didn't tell me was he had a guitar. He just didn't know how to play it. So he started learning how to play it. And then he decided, if we're going to start a band, we need a bass player. So I'm going to trade this guitar in for a bass.
Right.
And that's where it started. But we'd written a lot of stuff. And with Yesterday's Wine, we'd written a lot of stuff before and then after his solo album came out, Kentucky Motel. And we were in the middle of recording a full-length album. We had done an EP. And he had been in and done a lot of vocal tracks. And I tell people, you never know when things in your life are going to be a gift. Right. Time with people is going to be a gift. Yeah. This is a gift. He was in for weeks, spending the night at the house, coming in from Florida. We would record, rehearse, go out to eat, write, just getting ready for a show at Town Center. Mm-hmm. Had the best time. Played the Friday night.
It was awesome.
Yeah, played a Friday night and played Saturday with him at Butcher's Pub. Mm-hmm. Played Sunday with him at a private party in Shelbyville. He got in his car, said, "See you later." He went on to Tennessee and then back to Florida. And about a couple weeks later, he decided he was going to get the COVID vaccine and then said, "Well, I got to get rid of this sinus infection." Turned out it was COVID. And he decided to stay at home and fight it himself instead of getting treatment. And he passed in about 2 weeks. And it was rough because when you have somebody that is like your brother.
You talk to him every day. Yeah,
we talked every day, even if it was stupid stuff.
Yeah.
But one of the last songs we wrote will be on it. But luckily, I got a lot of vocal tracks. Good. And it was one of those things, and when it was all over, I remembered that time was given as a gift. Like, hey, to me, it's God gave me that time with Him. Mm-hmm. Maybe someone thinks it's the universe, whatever it was. Sure. I got that time with Him and so when you get time with people like that, man, appreciate it because you never know when it'll be the last time. He was young and good health.
He was, yeah.
Just a wonderful, wonderful singer and songwriter and great guy.
You've never met anybody more passionate about music to the core than John Carmack.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And he's the guy. I first saw him. You had invited me to a gig at Weaver's.
Yes.
When
he was playing the acoustic, and I think I sat in with him for a couple songs.
Yeah. And I was sitting with Dave and Karen in the booth, and you came walking up on the chorus.
Oh, that was Yesterday's Wine at Weaver's. Yes.
And you popped in. I was like, "What in the world? Oh, you got wireless on." But I remember that was the first time I'd seen John truly play with the band. I'd seen him acoustic-wise, but he was just effortless, and it just kind of made you sick a little bit because he didn't. You knew he was just kind of going on automatic mode. He didn't have to really try really hard at it. And those kind of guys, they're fun to watch, fun to sit and jam with. But he was one of those guys that just it was fun for him. It wasn't work.
He loved it, and he was at the point a couple times in Florida where he was making enough and playing enough out that he was getting close to quitting his job a couple times, and then he just about did before COVID hit initially, and then when it hit, and it shut a lot of the entertainment stuff down. He was glad he hadn't quit his job. And then when it picked back up, he was reaching that point again before he passed. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you could keep that legacy together and all that work you guys did together.
And we'll have a full-length album out probably this fall. We've been saying it for a couple of years, but it's been hard. I'll start working on it, and then I have to step away because it gets emotional. And I had a CD. I've got one in the car now with rough mixes I'm listening to. And my wife got in the car one day, was driving mine, and she called me and she said, I won't repeat the exact words she said, but what she said basically was, how could you do this to me? I get in the car, and the first thing I hear is John's voice blasting through the pitch. She said, I can't take that. Don't do it. Because, I mean, he would spend, days and weekends and weeks at our house. And
the family.
It was tough.
Well, so speaking of family, because I met you, I knew of you. I knew your dad more than you because of his everyone knows Bud, and
I knew you through Chamber.
Yeah, everybody fixes computer.
Yeah.
Fixes everyone's computer.
Yeah.
And I knew you through Chamber, but Dave hit me up and said, "All right, you got to get with Chuck. You got to get with us." And I was like, man, there's no way I can hang with these guys. But over the years, and I'm so thankful that you introduced us, Dave. I appreciate that. Over the years, jamming together and talking and hanging out, you guys have shared like tons of stories that are humorous. Usually you're making fun of Dave and Dave's making fun of you.
Kind of it works out that way.
Well, I got so much material.
I was going to say, yeah,
Come on. It's like a smorgasbord right there. What do you want? It's the buffet.
But so you guys have played together.
Yes.
I mean, we had Dave on a couple episodes back, and Dave was talking about when you guys first started.
Yes, I heard his story.
Chuck's version.
It's very similar to exactly what Dave's dead on.
We need to relive this one.
We're
Just
in.
go to episode 1. And
We're barely in high
how awful it
school.
was.
Yeah, and I think you may have been a freshman or a sophomore. You were a year behind me, so that I was a junior. We were looking for a drummer, and we'd been through several different drummers. And I was Roger Miller. Well, I know I'm not Roger Miller at that time, but Jeff Brown, Rodney Eversole, a bunch of different people, Ivan Reed, and we'd heard Dave had drums, and Dave's like, "Yeah, man, I'm a drummer." I'm like, "Cool." So we go over to his house.
Having drums and being a drummer.
Well, this is what I learned. And now, Dave said, that we were way better than he was. We weren't where we thought we were, but I could get through some songs.
Yeah.
I could get through a lot of songs and had written some. So Rick and I go over, Rick Baker,
yep.
and the first bass player in My Finest Hour with us. And we go to Dave's house. He's got this big Peter Criss Black Pearl kit, double kick. It's like, yes. We're like, man, everybody's had these little 4 and 5 piece kits, and this is the 80s, early 80s. Yes. So we load them up and we cram. I don't know how we got them in the 2 cars. We're like this, Dave's 6'8" anyway, or whatever he is. So we get over to the house and he gets them all set up, and he sits down behind them and says, "All right, what do you want to play?" And he just and we start playing, and I could tell all of a sudden he's like, "I really don't know what I'm doing."
Someone start.
We'll try this. I said, "What's something you know?" "I don't know. What's something you guys play?" And it was just one of those things and we were like, "Oh man, he can't play." So we eventually found a drummer, later. And John wasn't there. John couldn't make that audition. I remember John called me that night. "How'd it go?" I said, "Dude, great guy. Dave's a great guy. He's got a killer set of drums, and he can't play them." So fast forward years later, starting another band. I'm a junior at UK, and I called Carmack, and he was with Renegade with Jeff McFadden, and I think John David Riddle. Mm-hmm. And I said, "Dude, Rick Baker's playing bass now," because we played football through. He's like, "Great. I'm going to start a band while I'm coming home on the weekends. I need a drummer." He's like, "Dave Grigsby, first name." I said, "Dude." And he goes, No. He can play now. He and Ronnie Vance, who's a friend of ours we still talk to regularly and we jam with some in Knoxville, killer guitar player.
Amazing guitar player.
The Ingve stuff. I mean, just
Oh man.
stuff I just get ticked off when he plays it. But we go over, Rick and I go over to see Ronnie and Dave. Ronnie had seen a band I was in graduating from high school, and he thought we were terrible. And in rights, we probably were. We weren't as good as we thought we were. We start playing, and it just clicks. And it's like, man, this is great.
So what year is this?
This would have been
6.
86, end of 85, early 86. Okay. And we're at Ronnie's house, and it's like, and Dave's still got the Black Pearl kit. This time he can play them, and he plays them extremely well. And we had talked about a few songs we'd like to kind of jam up beforehand, and it was just like magic. Well, things went on. We played a show or two with Ronnie, and we just weren't feeling it. It just didn't fit. And so Rick and I left. Dave was still playing with Ronnie, and they call us, hey, man, come over and see. We got a new bass player. And so we go over, and we walk outside, and Dave's like, dude, he said, you got so many good originals. And Dave was like me. He wanted to write, wants to be involved in the writing. And he's like, let's just, us three. And we're like, yeah. we didn't find another drummer. And that started Sabre.
So that was the name of the band.
That was the name of the band. And we did some audio recordings he talked about in the back of Radio Shack.
Now
that was fun.
Now there's a photos, and I'm going to dig them up. And I'm going to film on here of you guys. Was that Sabre? That
yes.
Photos that are floating around. That was
with all of us in the wife beaters. And,
yes. Chuck had hair.
My wife hates those.
Thinner had more hair.
Had any hair.
Yeah, I'm not sure that.
It was bad. We were I was at Gondolier and saw Dole's wife, Christy Jones, and we were talking, and she said, I saw those pictures of you, I think shared or something. She said, I told Dole said, I didn't know Chuck was ripped like that. And I said, keywords was.
So Sabre's out, and you're playing. So where are you playing at?
Oh, gosh.
We played
a lot of parties.
Jellicoe, Richmond, lots of parties, Lexington. Played lots of fairs, festivals. The homecoming used to be a really big deal.
Yes,
I remember seeing
it was
pictures
huge.
Yeah, it was 2,000 people every night. The cars would go out of the park, down 25 and down 229.
It's crazy.
The
whole bowl was filled.
It was like Woodstock. People would walk for miles.
And they'd bring their blankets and they'd lay out in the grass.
Yeah. So was it mostly bands that played? I mean, of course, I know they had the pageant, but
they had a couple music nights. They had the pageant, but they had band nights. And gosh, we headlined one Saturday night.
Yep.
And that was at that time that was the biggest crowd I'd ever played for.
Oh,
it was nuts.
It was so much fun. And I remember a funny story from that there was a comedian that was the last act before us. And we had one roadie, Craig Smith. Craig, if you're out there, you were the best roadie anybody could ever have.
And light guy and stage manager.
And he's a great painter, and he painted the logo on a big sheet. And
electrician, he could do everything.
He was awesome. So we're getting ready, and we're all fired up, ready to go. We're looking at the crowd saying, we've never played to this many people before. And this comedian gets, and I need everybody to stand up. Everybody stand up. Everybody stand up.
On the hill.
Yeah, and they're like sitting on their blankets, so people start standing up. And he said, yeah, put your hands together. He said, I've always wanted a standing ovation. Thank you. Be safe. Drive home. I obviously like he's the closer because he was angry. He wasn't the headliner. And so they go running up. Somebody goes running up to the stage, like Brad Jones or somebody sent somebody, and they're like, no, because people are looking. Nobody's played these drums that are on the stage. They're sitting there.
My dad still talks about that, and he is still upset.
Yeah.
40 years later,
and there were some people that started leaving because they thought, well, we thought there was more entertainment.
Because it was really obvious. This guy was attempting to end the show, and us set up behind him. Yeah.
Man.
We had, and this wasn't the only time a comedian opened up for us. We played a London Country Club member guest golf tournament dance. Right. And the average age was about 72. And we're playing a lot of classic rock and some 80s.
Which is classic rock now, but it wasn't classic rock then.
Yeah, we were playing even some 70s stuff, but a lot of 80s stuff. So it was, and we're looking at it and we're like, this, and Rick's like saying, man, you know what we're going to see? We're going to hear people saying, you guys suck. And what we saw was older people putting napkins in their ears because it was loud. And Bill Moore, the golf pro, kept saying, don't worry, guys, it gets better. I'm like, how? Are they going to go like into the fountain of youth and come out? Or, well, their kids and grandkids start coming in as they leave. And all of a sudden it goes from what's going to be the worst gig ever. As in when the comedian, who was funny, he had opened for Joan Rivers in Vegas.
Really good. Yeah.
And he saw nobody was laughing but us, so he directed his whole act at the band, and we were the butt of the joke. By the end of the night, it was just a blast.
Yeah.
But at first, we were like, dude, this is not good. And Roger actually sang with us at one point because I was tired of singing because I'm not a great singer. I was better then than I am now. Yeah. It's not saying much. And we said, we got to find a singer.
Mm-hmm. And that's when Roger came in.
That's right.
The first time,
Yep.
I guess.
Yep.
Okay. And then,
And Dave found Roger at Radio Shack at a Battle of the Bands singing with another band. Mm-hmm. And he did Save All Your Love from Great White and nailed it.
Was it RPM? Is that who he was playing with?
No, he was singing with the band out of Clay County.
Okay.
Jet or something. I can't remember. I don't know if think Philip Mobley was playing with them. I don't think he was. And so we got a hold of him. Dave got his number. We called him. He's like, sure.
That's awesome. I'd be curious. I have to talk to Brad Jones about this. Like how many bands he, kind of either kickstarted, encouraged, kept going. Because, I mean, so far everyone has mentioned Radio Shack.
Yeah, he's not old enough to be a godfather, but he's one of the godfathers of the modern London music scene, for sure.
He ran sound for everybody. Mm-hmm. He and Doug Phelps had a mobile disco together that they did for years. And he's still doing it. And it was funny when I started playing again that I'd go to some shows and there would be Brad to run sound. And we're like, killer.
Him and Jeremy, they do so much for London. Jeremy, a choir director as well at North Laurel, but both of them together have done so many shows and kept the live scene going. I appreciate them. They do that Old Town Grill Challenge down there.
Yes. Which we've judged.
We have judged, and we played at, and we've...
Yeah. Oh, that's right. We did. That's right. We played with Charlie.
And
yes.
We actually did acoustic, and then...
We did Simple Man and...
Lady Gaga, You and Me.
Yes.
Or You
and I. You and I. Yes. I found a video that popped up from that. Yeah. And we actually did it wireless at Old Town Grill with acoustics and walked around.
We stood on stage, we looked kind of bored for a minute, and then when it kicks into that power chorus, we jumped off, and everybody's like, "Whoa!" Wait. Of course,
we're coming after.
Had to work the crowd a little bit. He got up.
No.
Did you get on the chair?
No, I didn't, but I did a windmill. I think.
Did the Pete Townsend.
Yeah. But now it's like, rotator cuff.
So let's talk a little bit about your method of playing, because what I've noticed, particularly when we've gone and practiced, Dave has his regimen of practice very meticulous, of, figuring out the timing, writing down, taking notes, BPMs, and everything like that. For you, I've noticed you are very meticulous too.
Yes.
And so when you listen, you say, all right, I'm going to nail the solo, or I'm going to nail this melody line, or whatever that you do. Right. How you do it? Where do you start?
When we were kids, it was, and I'm sure you did the same thing, you just lift the needle up and keep going back or rewind on the cassette tape.
Tattoo needle? What needle are you talking about?
You were listening to easy listening jazz on a...
Siri, go back 30 seconds.
You were listening to easy listening jazz when we came in on vinyl. So so you've done it, and we'd lift up the needle. Now, what's really cool is you can go to there's so many resources that weren't there when we were younger. YouTube is an incredible resource. Dave told me a story. He was learning how to play, wanted to play
Whip and Post.
Whip and Post, and found the actual drummer
Bruce Trucks,
who played on Whip and Post.
There he is doing a tutorial. Here's how you play it, and here's how you count it. And the same thing with Jeff Porcaro and the Rosanna Shuffle. There's a video on there of Jeff Porcaro. I mean, talk about getting a teacher. Back in the day, you had to go get a teacher to learn some of these things. Now you've got the guy that created the thing teaching you, and you can rewind it as much as you want. It's unbelievable. And
there's Ed King taught people how to play the right way to play Sweet Home Alabama, because everybody's played it a million different ways. And I saw an interesting one with an interview with Tim Pierce and Neil Gerardo, Pat Benatar's husband, and he was talking about the solo to Jesse's Girl. And when he's played live with Rick Springfield, like they happen to be in the same town or on the same bill, he'll play that and play the solo on it because everybody recognizes it. Yeah. And he will turn his back when he gets to about halfway through the solo so the actual guitar players can't see what he played. Because he said, I've seen them. He said they all get so close, and there's just a couple of little double stops that they don't get quite right. And he said it's not very nice of me, but I just got to turn away.
But he teaches a master class, doesn't he?
I think so.
I think I'd seen.
Well, I know he does a 3 chords bourbon that he started, and all the profits go to music education in schools, which is just what an amazing cause.
Yeah. So you're a YouTuber. I mean, that's
Yes.
where you're pulling your stuff from.
Yeah,
You know,
I'll listen, and then I'll see somebody out. I may watch somebody play it on YouTube. I may find a tutorial like, okay, I'm not sure how this goes. How do they get this? Is this a different tuning? There's different places you can find chords, like G tabs, I think it is. You could find your guitar tabs.
Guitar tabs.
Yeah, you can find the tabs and the chords. Once you get that, then you can.
And that's for a band, there's a difference between rehearsal and practice.
Yes, that's so key, and I'm glad you said that.
Because I've learned from you two, and it exposes a lot of things when you walk in and go, I listened to the song, and these two guys played the song before rehearsals. So there's two different methods there, and so rehearsal is not practice.
Yeah, practice is you working on your parts. Rehearsal is everybody bringing their parts together.
Yeah.
And I played with a lot of musicians that did not have that. And some, like you picked it up, you would come in and all of a sudden, man, you would just come in and have it. And there were songs you knew I didn't know that we did. Like you turned me on to, I knew Collective Soul songs.
Well, that was Dusty. I have to admit, that was Dusty.
That's
Dusty
awesome. And
he wanted to be I think he said he wanted to be a Collective Soul cover band.
You did.
Well, I was for it, too.
But you said no, you said there'd only be 10 people in the crowd, but I'd be there,
Collective Soul and Al Green. Any one of those two, I'll
Yes.
contribute to it.
And we've turned Roger, our singer, onto Collective Soul. He missed them. Then he'd say, "Oh, yeah, I've heard that song. Oh, yeah, I've heard that song.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that
It's surprising
song."
how many you've actually heard.
Yes.
Really.
And they're still doing it and really good. And so that we do a couple of Collective Soul songs. But so we do some stuff from different eras. We'll do it from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. We do some Foo Fighters. So we try to mix it up a lot. But you're right. People, if they will practice before they go to rehearsal.
That's it. So this is a question for both of you guys. Because I've seen you guys in different bands and played over the last several years. When you learn a new song, and each of you have a catalog, I'm sure that most folks it would take years and years to get, but you guys just, like you said, you've learned it from the old school way, so it's embedded in your memory, not on a piece of paper or an iPad. So when you learn a new song that you've heard but never played before, how many times are you guys hitting that before you actually perform it? Because it's just a loaded question, because some guys are like, well, we played through it and didn't really hear a whole lot of errors. Let's put it on the list. And then there's the guys that say, I want to be able to immediately fall into this song and remember everything about it the next time I play it before we even go on stage. What's your method? What do you think on that?
Well, I've been in both scenarios. I've been in musical situations. The one I'm most comfortable with are the ones where we get the thing spotless as we can get it before we play it in front of somebody. Mm-hmm. That's my preferred method. And the reason for that is, if you're up there gomming around and you butcher something, you look bad. You haven't put the work in. Mm-hmm. So if you put the work in, then that's going to take that away. There's lots of other reasons you can look good or bad. But if you put the work in before, it makes you look and sound more professional. Now I play with some of the guys in Bourbon Branch, and they have such an incredible backlog of songs that they know that they've played for years and years and years. Hundreds of songs. Yeah. They can pull one out they haven't played in 5 years, and they want to do that on stage in the moment. And Logan will turn around and he'll shout out a song, and I'm like, take off, pal. You're not going to have any drums to this.
Your gong showing. It's just
it's just a reflection. I don't know the song, and I want to look pro. I want to look like I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I played in another situation with another band I won't mention a couple of years ago, and the lead singer called out a song that they had written on the way to the gig.
Oh yeah, see
And the rest,
No pressure.
yeah, we didn't ride together.
heard the
You know, and so myself and the bass player, who's a very good friend of mine, look at each other, and with our eyes, we're saying, "What are we going to do?" And so, with the first couple of notes the lead singer plays, we jump in with something, and there's stops in the song, there's a tempo change.
And a bridge that we had no idea what it
And
was.
we're playing in front of about 75 people.
Oh, yeah.
And so when it was over, I was like, we don't want to do that again because it just makes us all look sloppy.
Yeah.
So there's something to be said for playing, being spontaneous and things like that. And there are musicians who can just pull that off. And I wish I was one of them. But
Well, I read a thing or watched a video the other day, and Frank Zappa was talking about, every moment I get, I don't know what's coming next when I'm on stage with the guitar. Right. But that's going said is, well, the other band the rest of the band knows what we're doing. You're allowed to do whatever you want. So there's a little bit of a line there.
Yeah, the guitar players have an advantage because every good band is centered around, and I'm not saying it's just to blow Dave's ego up, but it's the truth. The bass and the drums. The rhythm section makes the song. Everything else is on top. Mm-hmm. The melody and all this, you play the right chords and all that, but if the bass player and the drummer are together, you've got something. You've got something special. Mm-hmm. And he's absolutely right. I'm more comfortable playing it to where it's almost muscle memory. I don't have to think about what chord I'm going to. It just happens. So you can also interact with the crowd better. Mm-hmm. You can look up. You can look around and dance and have a good time and point at somebody, even if you
can enjoy the moment.
Absolutely.
Your head's not down and you're thinking or looking at a tab or a phone or something. Yeah.
It's so much better to do it that way. But I've been thrown into situations like Dave said, and did it with Carmack. Anytime Christy and I would go to Florida, he was living in Tampa, and usually it was something in Orlando. So it's only an hour or so away. Mm-hmm. He'd say, "You're coming to sit with my band. You're sitting in with my band." And I did it a couple times when we went down there. And he would do the same thing, and I knew it was coming because he called me once when he lived in Nashville on a Wednesday night to play with him on Friday night because his other guitar player, his lead guitar player, had taken a gig playing mandolin that paid more money that night, even though they'd committed. And he was like, "You've got to do it." I said, "Send me a set list." So he sends me a set list, and some of them we've done together. Mm-hmm. Some of them I knew, but I had never played. And I said, "Send me the key." So I'd kind of fumble through it at the house. I spent Thursday night trying to learn some of his set list. And I said, "I'm okay, comfortable." So I get off work, drive 3 hours to Nashville, set up, get ready to play. And 4 songs into the first set, met the drummer and the bass player for the first time ever. The bass player, I've seen him several times since there. Carl Schenkel, great guy. Drummer, I cannot remember his name, but he was drinking, and apparently when he was on break was going out to smoke weed too. And so he was really getting, so he had already done it before we started.
So you're getting
and he was fine.
on that guy.
Oh, but he was actually in time and playing well. He apparently was a pro at this. 4 songs in, he says, "Hey, let's play Bad Bad Leroy Brown." John's like, "All right." I said, "You have a chord progression for me?" It's okay. We play it out of G and we start in G. He said, and the good thing about that song is it was the same progression through the entire song. So that at least once I got the progression in, okay, I'm okay. Yeah. Then we hit a part, and there's no guitar solo really in that song.
There was that night?
There was. John says, and mere seconds before, he goes, "Lead guitar." And I'm like,
Pentatonic and G major.
yeah, exactly. I said, "All right, what's going to work? Let's find that first note. Let's slide down to it." But he would do that all the time. He did it in Tampa, so I was used to it. He was more off the cuff. Mm-hmm. There was a song, it's on the album, an original song that Dave's known for years. We played it. He wrote it in the 80s called Sunrise. Great ballad, slow song. And I kept trying to get him to play it. Mm-hmm. And we were playing at the fair. Yesterday's mom was playing at the fair, and he said, "Man, I don't know. It's just too easy." I said, "Simple is what people like, and it's a great melody, and it's a great song, and it's just a typical love song, but people like it." Mm-hmm. So he'd been drinking, And in between, we let him do an acoustic set about the third set. Yeah. And we were about to come out, and he starts playing it. And he's killing it. And it sounds so good. And I can't help myself. I walk up and get on stage at the Laurel County Fair and turn on my guitar and start playing along. Rick has never played the song. Kip has never played the song. They come up, and I'm telling Rick the progression, so he's just kind of playing the bass notes, and Kip's kind of feeling what he thinks the drums should do. Mm. And it turns into, I wish we'd have videoed it because it felt magical. And when we recorded it, I played this slide solo. It's one of the best I've ever played. And I couldn't repeat it, and everything I played sucked when we tried to record it. So now it's just a clean, regular solo. There's no slide.
You brought up something really interesting, Chuck, because I know you do a lot of tracking.
Yes.
And we brought in Chris Schaus, Wolfpen Branch, talked to him, talked to Jordan Allen the other day, and they had just come off from recording their albums. And they recorded, not necessarily in the room together, but at the same time,
right,
to get that energy that you're talking about, because the bass player's feeding off the drummer, and drummer's feeding off the bass player,
yes,
and the lead's following the vocals, and the vocals are following the rhythm, and you got all this stuff going on. You can math it and do separate sections. I know you did the same thing, Dave, with Rod Davis. As you guys were in different rooms, play together. That magic you almost have to capture in a can. Makes it murder for the mixing engineer and the editor, but from a song and catching the dynamics. I mean, you feel the same way about that? I know it's logistically hard when you got John that was in Florida and you're here.
Right. So. I loved all the demos that Dave and I did together in Sabre and the EP that we did. We tracked all the basic tracks live together. Mm-hmm. And even if Dave was in a drum booth, we did it together. Mm-hmm. Or my amp was in another room or whatever. And it gave you that energy, that feel for, okay, here's where this comes in. And the way I do it now doesn't work like that. Like with John's album, Kentucky Motel, he said, I want you to play some guitar tracks. Mm-hmm. So he would send me the bass tracks with the vocals, and he would tell me, all right, this is about where I want some fills. Here's where I want to lead. And then he said, just do it. So then I would send him my guitar track. And John wasn't on the engineer side. He was just on the entertainer side. So he'd never been on the side that you had where we edited and mixed. And he called me and he's playing. I sent him one on MP3 so he could listen to it in the car. Mm-hmm. And he's like, dude, I've been listening for 2 minutes. And there's no lead guitar. And I turned it up and I said, John, that's because it's to sync up, but there's nothing there until the lead on that track. The other ones are filled. This is that. And all of a sudden, it just comes through. And he's like, ah, and he's screaming. He screamed like a girl for somebody as big as he was. And he's like, oh man. He said, why didn't you tell me? I said, I tried to tell you. But it's different, but it was so much fun to be part of that album. And I hated that I couldn't go down there and do it.
Yeah.
But logistically, the fact that we can do that now is incredible.
Well, and so many are doing that. The studio experience is somewhat by the wayside when you've got guys tracking. I mean, you can pay, I saw it in Jeff Powell a couple of years ago. I think you guys were in the room with him, and he's talking about these drummers that you would cost thousands of dollars, or horn players, to get them to come in the studio. And they're like, well, just send me your lead sheets. I'll play them and send me the audio file.
Yeah.
And they record it in their basement, send it to you, and you're like,
yeah.
For $50, yeah, man, I'll take that. Versus flying them in and feeding them and giving them overnight stay and studio time. But that technology's there now.
The only bad thing about that is it can't be one of those things like, and Dave and I have been in the room, there's some demos that we did. We did one on a song called Beaten, Battered, Tattered, and Torn that he and John had written together. Mm-hmm. And we had Charlie Creech actually sang it. I'll try to find that audio somewhere. I've got it. And I was doing this lead, and Charlie was in the room and Dave was in the room, and I'm trying to get this, and they're sitting there, and there was one reach I just couldn't make, and Dave kept saying, so I was going to quit. And now I can't make that. He said, you can do it, man. You can do it. You can make that reach. And he said, you're so close. You're so close. And finally I got it. And he's like, so I was happy to have that encouragement, because if I had been by myself, I'd have said, it's not going to happen. Yeah. It's not going to happen.
And, the situation you described with people in separate rooms and send me the tracks and I'll lay down the drums to it, or I'll lay down, the keys to it or whatever. Mm-hmm. I mean, how are we ever going to get another Fleetwood Mac Rumors if that's
Exactly.
the way
you
music
don't
is
have
made.
Jimmy Levine throwing candles at you to get the best work out of you, you know, or
Yeah.
screaming at each other.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Get it.
that
Yeah.
synergy and that tension that happens in the studio.
Yeah.
How many like iconic records has that produced? You'll never get that with the Nashville system. Never.
No.
There's a magic in the room. I mean, there is. It's like if you work up a new song, any band you've played in, same with you. You work up a new song and you play it the first time, and it's like, this is pretty special.
Yeah.
This sounds really good, and it's that magic, the chemistry. It's like you got all these musicians working together. It's kind of like the synergy effect. Two people can do more together than the work of just two. And that's kind of the way it is with music too.
Man, that's a great saying. Like you should have that, you know, above your desk or you know where you're at spend a lot of your time and think about that because so many folks will close the door and say, "I'm going to write by myself," or "I'm going to go do this. I'll reach out to you later." But you almost that synergy of having, if it's a guitar player or singer or keyboard player, along with maybe the rhythm guy says, "What do you think about the speed like this and write it this way and syncopation of this way?" And it takes it to a whole new level. Of course, I guess that's what a producer does. We can't all have our own producer, but
but you get the magic. And it's kind of like when we got the song "It's Raining Here." When Dave and I first started working that, then you come in and we had played it, and it was much slower. And I remember I sent it to John, just a recording of us doing it. There were just the three of us. I mean, Rick may have been in there. I think the four of us.
yeah, right.
First thing John said was, "Dude, it's killer. It's got to be faster. It's got to be faster." So I didn't tell you guys it was his idea. I said, "Let's try it faster," and not like speed metal.
All right, it was
Yeah, but it was
yeah.
and then we sped it up, and it's
from a ballad to more of a rock.
yeah, and then it was like, "Oh yeah, that works." And I said that to him, and he's like, "That's not quite as fast as I thought, but I like it. So yeah, keep it. Yeah, it's great. You guys are great." And it was great to bounce that off. Dave and I have written together. We've all written together. And you have a certain technique when you write. And if you're in the room together, ideas will fly. On "It's Raining Here," I remember Dave all of a sudden spits out a line, "Does it ever rain in Southern California?" Or "Does it ever rain?" And I was like, "Oh, yes." And I kept saying, "It's still raining here." And he's like, "No, it's raining here."
Collective.
Yeah.
There's a great video, and I know it's pretentious to bring it up because I've heard reviews that people don't. I watched it and resonated with me, but it was a U2's From the Sky Down.
I haven't seen it.
And it's a documentary talking about how they came back to the studio, and after Ashton come back to write in that same space because they just were dead. Like they were like, how do we match the intensity and creativity of that? They had recorded it in Berlin. Of course, it was right after the wall had collapsed, and they were trying to put Joshua Tree behind them, and they were trying to write. And so they threw themselves. Of course, the Edge, he goes home and he writes ideas all day long. And then Bono listens to them, and then he writes to that. That's how their writing technique was. But they were clashing and everything else. And in this video, Bono was talking about you've got to get in a space where everyone's focused on creating the new thing, not just one person. And if everyone's attitudes are to that creative thing happens. And that's when things are birthed. The case in point was they were playing. I believe it was Streets. It was either Streets or Without You, and of course you know how the Edge is melodic,
Yeah.
and they're playing back the tracks, and Ed just not there. It's just Bono and the engineer. He said, "All right, right here. Listen to this." They're playing that track over and over and over as a band, and Bono's trying to get a musical idea. He doesn't know what to do, and he says, "Take it a little bit faster," and they take it up a little bit faster. Take it a little bit slower. All right, cut that out. And when he cut it out, suddenly one comes out of that, and he starts singing the lyrics to one, and he goes, "Right there." That's when that song was born.
Wow.
And so when you're writing, to me, that's the stuff you get.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's about, and you're like, I want that every time, which is hard to find. But when you're writing, you almost have to create that environment. You can't. I mean, sitting in the car is one thing. You probably didn't intend to write a song.
No, I was eating my sandwich. I think it was ham and cheese that day.
Give me a pen, give me a paper, give me something. I got to get this down.
Yeah.
But when you purposefully close that door and say, "We're writing tonight, and this is what we're going to do as a band,"
Yep.
I mean, there's something about that.
And when you let it happen, and there's one song. What's the one song? The one that you said was the Joe Bonamassa-esque. I'm completely blanking out on the name of it. King or Valley of the Kings. Valley of the Kings.
Yeah. Oh, that was bombastic.
And that's a great word for it. And I had we had this music and we had jammed on it, and I had these lyrics, and all of a sudden I needed a third verse, and I had nothing. And I called Dave and I said, "Dave, you got to help me, man. I got nothing." I said, "You know what we've been playing. You know the song." And he texts out these lines. Like, he sends me a couple lines. "Don't fall on your sword when the enemies are at your door." And I was like, oh. And he's like, "Well, does that help?" I'm like, yes.
You're playing a lot of shows that I feel like are accustomed to cover songs, and you mentioned playing the fairs.
Right.
Accustomed to that.
Right.
When does it feel right for a band to do the originals? Because you always want to give 2 for 1. So, you know, the audience wants to hear 2 of their songs for your 1. I'm throwing out a theory on formula. I don't know if that's true or not, but sometimes you're like, well, I gave you 2 songs, so let me at least have 1. What's fair to say, I'm going to play some originals, and then you start seeing them wandering back to the bar or wandering out the door for a smoke, or, you know, they've got their phone out. So how do you keep them engaged but yet say, look, honor me in this, because we wrote a song, it's pretty good.
Oh, yeah, we've written several that were really good. What your take? I've kind of got my take. What do you think, Dave?
Well, I play in 2 bands now, and with Rod Davis, the first set we do, we've got 15 songs, and 3 are covers, and 12 are his originals. And his philosophy is, I'm trying to be a country artist, and I'm going to play my stuff, and I hope the audience likes it. And if they do, they'll come back.
Right.
And they do.
They do.
Yeah.
And at the shows, we were playing in Alabama, and we were playing a place called Carl's Country, and people were showing up. He'd never played in Alabama at that point. People are showing up in his T-shirts and his hats, and they're singing the songs back to him.
That's See,
That's correct.
So
Yeah.
if you're an artist at that point in your career, then it almost becomes irrelevant. At that point, you do a cover here and there to give somebody, and later in the night, people want to hear things that they're, we'll do 3 or 4 sets when we do like Austin City, Lexington, and we do the originals early, and we do more covers later, and then the last set's all covers, and people are doing all sing-alongs.
Yeah.
They've had a little more alcohol, they're a little more loose, and yeah. Who would have thought? The other situation that I play with is Bourbon Branch, and we do more covers. And in a 12-song set, we might do 1 or 2 originals. And we let the audience know, this is a song that Logan says this is a song I wrote, and he'll maybe give some background, plays it, and moves on. And sometimes you get a great response. Sometimes they just wait you out for the next cover. It just depends on the crowd, and but I've seen original songs go over like gangbusters. You'd have thought you were playing a Queen classic.
Yeah.
And then other nights and other crowds, it's crickets.
Well, like Frontier was one band. I know you guys have known them very well, and they played. They were ones. They were pretty much all originals, but they would throw in covers, their version of covers, or those things to say, look, we can do this song good too, and you guys enjoy it. But they're Countywide was another band. Did a lot of originals.
8 Day Sober does a lot of originals, and then the covers too.
Originals, and they're almost unapologetic about it, which is great. I think that's a great attitude to have. But you get caught with the venue and the promoters too, where they're saying, "Look, we got to keep these crowds hanging here for a long time."
Yeah.
And so, what about you, Chuck?
For me, now this goes back. Dave can tell you in the '80s, we weren't smart enough to listen to his dad, who had, as you learned, has played music. He was experienced. We were not. We're in our late teens, early 20s, and we're playing, and we want to play. We've written these songs, and we're going to play them. And that's what we recorded. We only recorded maybe 1 cover ever, Born to Be Wild. Everything else we did was original. And he's like, you got to play stuff they know, and you got to play some belly-rubbing music. And that's a Sam Grigsby original. And, Sam would come up with stuff like he talked about sock symbols. And Dave kept saying, I don't know what he's talking about. I said, I don't either. So I looked it up. And I said, Dave, I've learned what sock symbols are. I said, your hi-hats? He said, yeah. He said, I know that's what Dad's talking about. I said, they called them sock symbols, and the reason was they used to only be about this tall, and you just did it with your left foot, and it was about sock level, so they called them sock symbols.
Okay, so now we've just learned a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Courtesy of your dad.
Courtesy of Sam.
Who did all this in the 60s. All the stuff we're doing now, he did in the 60s.
Thank you, Sam.
So we played the Homecoming, and I bet we didn't play 3 covers. We played originals and some people liked it. Some didn't care for it. But there's probably a reason we didn't get more dances. But Dave has a great story about an embarrassing moment.
Oh my gosh! How much time do we have?
Just let it run.
This is one of my this is one of my favorite gig stories ever.
Yeah, this falls under probably the most embarrassing moment of our lives. It's true story. True story. So we're playing the Nib Rock Festival. This is back in the 80s.
This is in Corbin.
This is Corbin. We're playing the Nib Rock Festival
a couple years in a row. Yeah,
a couple years in a row, and we're set up on a big truck bed, and we've got a huge audience, and we're killing it. I mean, we're on. The audience is into it. We feel like rock stars.
Nib Rock's a great crowd.
A lady walks up to us after the gig, middle-aged woman, and she is just like, listen. She said, I own a club, and we want to hire you guys. I was like, great. She's like, I love what you do. We want to. So she said, it's a non-alcohol. It's like for high school kids. And we're like, whoa, just 1 second. You've seen what we did, right? You've seen what we played. We kind of play harder rock. We play, we don't play dance music. And our audience generally isn't high school kids, even though we were barely out of high school.
Yeah.
No. I watched you. That's why I came. That's why I wanted to hire you. Okay, we're good. We're good. So we book it. We show up, and we set up. And if I leave anything out, jump in. we set up, and there's maybe 20 high school kids there, and there's like there's disco stuff and Michael Jackson and whatever playing on the PA. Yeah. And they have covered the dance floor. They are just getting down. I mean, it's like Saturday Night Fever. They are getting down as we're setting up. Yeah. And we're already nervous.
And this place has pool tables. It's a big old diesel warehouse behind where Phelps Music Place is. That big truck.
Yeah.
Diesel
That's
truck
where it
garage.
was.
So this is in there.
Yeah. Okay. And there's little putt-putt golf courses, pool tables. I mean.
Great place. Huge facility.
Great idea.
Yeah. She wants to have music in there.
So, J.W. and his wife.
J.W.
That was it.
And his wife. I'm sorry, I don't remember her name. But we start playing, and the dance floor clears. Instantly, they go to the wall.
What'd you start with?
Oh, gosh.
We probably opened, no telling. We might have opened with Ted Nugent or Bad Company or Poison or
again,
Billy
classic
Squire.
rock that was modern at the time.
Van Halen. Whatever.
So, Van Halen. We did some Scorpions, some Motley Crue.
Yeah.
But they instantly go to the wall. Well, we kind of figured that. So we come out, we do this second set. The exact same thing happens. Boom! They are off the dance floor, sitting down, waiting for us to finish.
But between your set, you took a break.
Between the sets, they put the disco music back on, and boom! They are all over the dance floor, getting down, baby, having the time of their lives until we come out. Yeah. So we play two sets. We play two sets, and we have a little band meeting in the green room. And it's like, man, this is so painful, We told the lady that hired us, we told her this was going to happen, this. And so they elect me to go to her and say, look.
He was the youngest.
I was the youngest.
By months.
So just pay us for the two sets. We'll pack up. We're not upset. It's all good, but this is not our crowd. They're having fun when we're not playing, and that's, we're all good. We can go home.
We're going to come back and play their New Year's Eve anyway.
We're going to come back and play New Year's Eve, because it won't be high school kids. Yeah. She absolutely insists, no. I want you guys to play. I hired you for a reason. I love what you do. I want you to play your third set. Okay, we'll do that. We'll come out. So we're getting ready to leave the green room. It's time. We're getting ready to leave the green room to start our last set. And we hear somebody tap the mic. And it's her. And she's like, excuse me, you've hurt the band's feelings. You won't dance to their music. They didn't even want to come back out here. So she lectures them about showing the band respect.
Oh, my God.
And then she introduces us, and we walk out. And as we're walking out, Brian Sparks gets right in my ear, and he said, "Did you tell her to say that?" I said, "No, I didn't tell her to say." So we go out, and it's so painful. So we start playing, and the kids are against the wall, and they're having a little huddle.
And at little tables, they had little tables.
Yeah. They're having a little huddle, and as we start the first song, 4 of them are elected to get up and dance. So 4 of them get up, and they start dancing to whatever rock song we're playing.
And I'm sure they're talking.
And as soon as that song's over, they throw their hands down, they go sit down, and they point to some other people, and they have to go do their shift. And so the high school kids were doing forced dances in shifts all throughout our last set. That was a long set, Greg.
This tall. That's how tall we felt.
What will be interesting is to find out who of those teenagers are still around that can say,
my God.
"Oh, you were the guys that played." That was.
I could have walked underneath Dave's dad's sock symbol that's this high and cleared it easily at that point.
So your feelings were hurt, Dave. You were dancing.
And we've actually sat in with each other in different bands. He sat in with Yesterday's Wine. We were playing a party, and Kip couldn't make it.
Mm-hmm. And Jervis.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Dave and Rick and I got together and jammed, which was so much fun. Mm-hmm. And he listened to the originals that we did because it was Yesterday's Wine, so we had a lot of originals too, and the covers. And John wasn't there because he was in Nashville. John comes in, we played the show, went great. Yeah. And then Dave invites me to sit in with the guys from Bourbon Branch, but Logan can't make it. So I'm in with Mike and Kenny and Dave at the Shriners in Lee County for a fundraiser auction they have. Nicest people.
Yeah.
Just had the best time. And that was another one of those that we rehearsed once. We got through about 1/3 of the songs we were going to play, and I didn't know a lot of them. So Kenny Boland, I love Kenny. They're great guys. They all are. Kenny would just say, "All right, Chuck, this is G." He said, "You kind of," and you know, some of the progressions were pretty easy, but some of he's like, "All right, now it goes to an A minor here," and so he would like come over and tell me, "Okay." So he was great and walked me through some of that, and then it would be, and Mike Reynolds would look across and go, "Lead."
Take it, Chuck.
But we've sat in with each other and played. Our musical careers have done this basically our whole lives since we were kids.
Yeah. Well, we're not jamming. When we're not jamming with our own bands, we're on the phone or texting as we are with you.
Yep.
Here's how the gig went. Hey, how'd your gig go?
Yep.
That's our daily life.
And that's what I love about what we've done with the forum. I mean, Chuck was there for the first one.
Yeah.
And Luke is going to be our next guest on Monday, and he's the one that we were sitting around, Luke Ramsey, talked about doing this thing. We need to do something, and we kind of helped birth that idea. But the whole idea was you could do that very thing. You know, you saying, all right, guys, listen, you need to go follow this guy on YouTube. He's going to break down all the Van Halen,
right.
Pre-chorus leads that he does. We did a clinic with Dave where Dave came in and showed us how to tune a drum kit. We play drums. We don't know how to tune our own kits. Dave came in and broke that down. And the fact that we can all still reach out, talk to each other. I got to see Justin Riley this past weekend.
We played a gig with him last weekend.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, to not feed off each other in some form or fashion. If it's reaching out, saying, "Man, how you doing? Chin up. Are you playing? Why aren't you playing? If you have, tell me about it."
Well, and you see people like when we were teenagers, Sneaky Pete was the band around here, the band, and then now it's Jimmy Hampton, because it's not Sneaky Pete without Jimmy Hampton. It's just not.
They got a new singer.
Yeah, Mike Caldwell is playing drums, and like he has for years. Mm-hmm. Mike Campbell is the guy that's the singer. He's from Clay County, and then Philip Mobley, who's an incredible guitar player, and then his son Brandon who owns 88 Music in London. Mm-hmm. Shameless plug. Oh, yeah. They're always really good to me.
Super nice guy.
Oh yeah, he plays guitar with them too. Okay. And what's funny is we've laughed that his dad and I, are in our mid to late 50s, and we're into the shiny, the nice, the modern, the Lukather guitar, that kind of thing. He's into the papa guitars.
I was gonna say you're in the Paul Reed Smith.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's why I don't have a big collection. That's why it's really small. But Philip and I are there. Mm-hmm. Brandon is a papa guitar guy. Like, he will get in vintage Tellys. I'm talking 53, 54, 55, 56 Les Pauls, Strats, and they'll come in, and I'm just amazed. Wow, this is incredible. I would be scared to play it.
Well, he keeps bugging me. He wants some of my vintage amps. I'm like, yeah.
Oh, he loves vintage stuff. He is and the stuff he's had some really beautiful things come through there. Some
Isn't it
very
promising
classic.
for somebody his age to have that kind of thirst and passion for that stuff? You expect it from us.
Yes, he has a knowledge, and his dad will tell you this. Phil will tell you the same thing. He knows more about Gibson and Fender and some of this stuff. He's eaten up with it to the point that Phil and I will laugh. Like, if I tell him something he didn't know about, like an Epiphone Spirit that was a short run made by Gibson, then they called him Gibson again. He went and found out more about it than I knew, and I used to own one. He can look at the screws and say, this isn't an original screw. Mm-hmm. By the types of screws they use, the type of plates, everything, it's stunning. Yeah. So he does appraisals on vintage guitars.
Yeah. That one, I'm done.
Well, you and I've gone pawn shopping before.
Yes, and I've got 2 pawn shop guitars right now. This guy, so Dave kicked me on a Telecaster, and I got one. I won't even say how cheap I got it. I got out of that store quick after I bought it. I was afraid he's going to catch me.
When I seen it and I seen the price, I'm just like, they don't know what they've got.
It's sitting over there, and it's still got the sticker on the pickguard Telecaster. This guy, whoever brought it in, didn't play it ever, and I haven't either. then at Robbie's, we found
you got that Strat.
I got that Strat, and I love it.
You still have it?
Oh yeah.
Is it blue?
It's blue.
Yeah, I remember that.
It looks like someone fed it to their dog. How do you get a mark on there like that thing? because right now you both are getting ready to play live and hit the tour season. How do we, or what should we consider about playing live locally? Getting things to play live again. We used to have Thursday Night Live, which was great. You mentioned playing out Homecoming.
Yep.
We have the Town Center, the honorary Chuck Stewart.
Not this year. I will not be on the stage this year, apparently.
Well, but utilizing those to the max.
Yeah.
How do we encourage that? And it's not asking for handouts from
I
government
think-
agencies. I think it's encouraging people to say, I want live music. I'll come out and support it.
I think we maybe find some sponsors to put on an event and get permission from the Tourism Commission, because they're spending a lot of money to put on. I've heard some of the acts that I'm told are coming, and I'm pretty excited. They've had a great every year, but both years they've had just great shows. And I actually contact them and say, no, we can't play. Get Rye Davis, and they didn't this year, but I'm hoping they will next year, because Rye, I've seen him live, and he's great. Puts on a great show, great interaction with the crowd. The band's killer.
Great drummer.
But I think get some sponsors, have an event there. If people want to come set up, let them set up a tent, set up a booth, sell something. Just have some sort of a couple of years ago, West DeWeese put on a blues festival at the amphitheater, and it went pretty well. It really did, and it was fun, and nobody got paid.
Well, that's the thing is, and I hated it for Wes.
That's
I knew he carried it on his own shoulders.
He absolutely did.
He tried really hard to work with folks, and not that they wouldn't work with him, there wasn't a priority to him. And so for him, it was like, I'm going to do this thing, and he really did.
Yep.
He did his best, but those kind of things, it needs you like you said, the power of two. And just encourage, and I don't feel like we have to ask a lot of resources to do it, because we can all kind of piece things together and make it happen. I just think from a community standpoint, maybe we've not said, hey, what if we just started on Thursday Night Live, but not call it Thursday Night Live? We just, hey, Thursdays, can we just do some local things? No big PR push.
I like the weekend thing better. The one thing I like about them doing it on Friday, and then they've had some shows on Saturday, is people don't have to worry about getting them to go to work the next day.
Sure.
And so I think the crowds have been even better. And also, it's only once a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the crowds, if you want live music, that's where to go. But some of the groups they've had are just fantastic. The sound has been excellent. The event has been excellent. The weather has generally been excellent for about every one of them. I think it's but I think having more events there. We actually at times we've played on the back of flatbed trucks. We did outside of where Cumberland Valley Office Supply is now. Used to be a Druthers before it was Burger Queen.
Behind Hardy's Fazoli's over there, or
No, Carnaby Square.
Oh, Carnaby Square.
Yeah,
Okay,
where Cumberland Valley Office Supply is. There used to be like a Druthers. There's a Dairy Queen, became a Druthers, and we played there on the back. The guy brought in a flatbed truck. We had extension cords into the restaurant, and we played out in the parking lot. And we played a lot of originals because we were, now we're playing almost all covers. We're not playing a lot of originals, and I want to get back to playing more originals.
And the guys from the Seas, when you had them on, I loved that part where you guys were talking about. They talked about doing pop-up shows. Yeah. And I was cheering from my laptop as I was watching that, because we're all kind of doing our musical thing. We've kind of got things to a certain
you can scratch
place.
the itch because you're
we can scratch the itch, but younger players that are coming up, or players that haven't developed their full set, they're not booking a lot of. Man, I would love to see them doing some pop-up shows.
And can you remember that excitement?
Yeah.
That first show, you knew you were playing in 2 weeks. That's all you could think about, talk about. And then, of course, the 2 weeks following, like, we played, and we did, and the stories that came from it.
And how much do you learn from that first, public?
Absolutely.
Even if nobody's there, how much do you learn from it? You learn a lot. So you remember when Gin Blossoms played up there? Yeah. I was drum teching, and
which, by the way, pictures you shared, that was a ridiculous experience. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
That experience,
it was great.
That's amazing.
It was crazy good.
Downtown London on the stage, right We walk past all the time.
It's crazy fun. It was crazy fun. Yeah. So the Gin Blossom, my drums were famous for a night.
Just one time.
And actually, Scott Hessel, their drummer, as I walked him off stage, he's like, "Hey, keep in touch." And so I friended him, I sent him a message afterward. Hey, it's so great to meet you. Thanks a lot. We had a brief conversation because he knows Stuart Copeland, and I worship Stuart Copeland.
So you're less than 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon.
Yeah,
there you go.
exactly. And he went to the Grammys with Stuart Copeland. And,
oh my gosh.
And so we had kind of that connection. But a couple weeks later, he friended me on Facebook, and I was like, "How cool is this?" Yeah. It's just a wonderful experience. But in addition to providing drums, I'm not 6'10" like you said, but so Tim
that's short people.
So Tim Parks who hired me for the gig,
he's 6'10".
Yeah. Tim said, "Hey, could you also do a little security?" And I was like, "I guess,
Yeah.
And
he saw the tattoos.
Yeah, that's what basically just keep people from getting on the stage.
Flex. Oh,
So the band's coming out of their bus, and they walk onto the stage, and a woman's following them, and she's not with. You can tell she's local, and I have to just kind of step in front of her to keep her from following them right on the stage, and she looks up and she said, "Could you ask the band to sing Happy Birthday to someone?"
Remember that?
And
this is not Chuck E. Cheese.
I saw it. I was standing there.
so what's going through my head was, at one time, this was the biggest band in the world.
Yep.
There was a period of time, a couple of years in the 90s, where this was the biggest band in the world. I'm thinking this, but I'm trying to be tactful. And I said, I really don't think they would do that kind of request. And she said, "Well, are you with the band?" And I said, "No, ma'am, I'm not." "Well, could you ask them?" And so my response was, "Look, I play in a local band. We would absolutely sing Happy Birthday. It's not beneath me. But I'm pretty sure these guys are not going to do that, and I'm not going to ask them. I'm sorry." And she left just dejected and upset.
Dreams shattered, but he got his drums in the picture. Can you sound my drum head?
Yeah. when you get to meet or have conversations with people that you look up to, like he's had stuff that he's had retweeted and responded to by Stuart Copeland, and that
David Crosby.
That's incredible, and that's the kind of thing that I think we can impart to younger musicians that are starting to encourage them, tell them how good they sound, keep it up, enjoy what they're doing. Because you play music because you love it.
And do a full circle here, so roundabout to your horrible music experience. Saying no to gig takes you out of being able to make a really good story. So maybe say yes to a few of those awkward gigs.
They're great.
Story.
We have enjoyed that story so much over the years.
So glad you said
way
yes.
more than the gig.
You don't even remember the
Yes, we had. So a lot of stories we can't tell because we're all married and we want to stay that way.
That's right.
And no, I jest. I'm jest. But so we had so much fun, and that's the thing about music. You're bonded by music, and that's what brings you together with other musicians. Brandon Stokes, I didn't know him from Adam. He knew me as a guitar player. I knew him as a guitar player. He sends me a message. "Hey man, you guys looking for a guitar player?" Because we were just looking for a bass player at that time. And I asked Wes DeWeese was our bass player at that time, and I said, "You know him better than I do." I said, he's a killer guitar player. He said, "Great guy too." He comes in, and he is just super. And Mike Birch, who was a drummer with us at one time, said, "Yes, super guy, really good drummer too." He said, "This is the first band," he said, "I've played in with 2 lead guitar players that both can play lead and don't have an ego."
That's hard. I'm telling you, man.
He said something's not right. He said, like Brandon would say, "Why don't you take this one? I think this is more your style." Or I'd be like, "Man, jam out that little solo a little longer there." And it's just so much fun to have. And then Juddy's just an incredible drummer.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And loves the triggers and everything. And Tyler Finley has been he is very young. He's the youngest. He's brought the average age of the band down and made the hair length average longer.
Yes, hair product.
Yes, he's awesome. And he puts on a show.
Yeah.
And he is probably, we've laughed, Brandon and I said, he's actually probably a better guitar player than both of us.
Isn't that the case?
He's a great musician, period, and a great person. So I'm very fortunate. Like Dave is, you're playing with good people, and you enjoy playing with them. I went up when Rye opened for
John
Anderson. And he did his acoustic show, and then they played the after party, the whole band did, and I went over with them, and it was so much fun. It's the first time I'd actually seen Rye live, and I'm like, I'm not a huge country music fan. It's hard not to like. It's hard not to like Rye. You just can't not like him.
To be. Yeah, and I kind of close with this: is that when you talk about being nice guys. Told the story before, but that it's on Netflix. It's called Hired Gun.
Yes,
Alice Cooper is just perfect where he says, "Be workable, be easy to work with, be easy to travel with, show up on time, listen, shut your mouth, do your job, be nice." That's all. We don't ask you to be, Eddie Van Halen 2 or Steve Vai 3 or whatever. Just do your job and be nice.
And believe it or not, young musicians, it is more important to have that than it is to have chops.
Yes.
It really is.
Because people want to play with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
If they like being in the room with you. We enjoyed being in the room together. You enjoy being in the room with the guys you're playing with. That makes all the difference in the world. Are you having fun? We've laughed. We've never had a gig we've ever played that we didn't laugh about something, probably during the set.
Well, that comes off stage. When you see that up there and there's like, these guys are generally having a good time, or there's a joke they're laughing at, this is great.
Yes.
And you just enjoy it.
But we're very fortunate that we have parents that were supportive, even if whether they played or not, that they were supportive. My wife's very supportive. I know Karen's very supportive. Christy's very supportive of playing music because it's what we like to do.
So maybe it's maybe. Well, guys, I appreciate you both coming on. I love the stories, and I'm so glad you guys are still playing. That's one of those things where we have to keep encouraging, folks. I'm so glad to see Dusty out playing.
Absolutely.
I'm going to get Nathan Sizemore on here again. He played bass with us for a little bit. I'm going to put
Yes.
that kid. You talk about a super talented kid.
Yes.
Him and Zach Smith, two great music guys that need to be playing. And I think actually they recorded an album or a track here not too long ago. Down at Matt's place.
I love that the name of the band they was it Saints of Heartbreak?
Yeah, I mean,
I remember Dave and I thought that's just a great name.
Very lyrical.
A great band name.
Yeah, and Zach's got this thing of phrasing and bringing out words and almost throws them out there, and they seem to stick. And
he loves it. He has a passion for it
he
too.
does.
You see it.
He's got a swagger.
When he came in the room with us, he had a briefcase and a notebook, and he was dressed up,
prepared.
He was prepared,
and I was like, "This is just so cool to see from a young guy."
And that's the kind of stuff I was like, and work hard.
But the whole reason we play is that we love it.
Yeah.
When you have to love it to play it, because we're not retiring on any money that we make when we play.
No, in fact, we're kind of getting rid of some of that retirement.
That's exactly.
Have you seen Dave's drums?
Yes, I have. Saw his new drums. I haven't got to see the new ones live yet, the small ones.
Yeah.
But I helped him with the big ones last time, and I was like, I know why he wants to get a smaller kit now.
He's on to something here.
That's why I went digital.
Yeah.
It's just a lot easier than hauling the amp around. And
Yeah, for sure. Well, guys, thank you so much. Enjoy
Thanks,
it.
Thank you, Greg.
Let's keep playing, keep talking, and do our thing.
Thank you for having us.